we know about FHA loans. How does the government participate in FHA loans? The insurance, a government insurance policy. The money is provided by lenders, interest rates provided by lenders, is to make home ownership available for more people. Did you get all of that out to start with?
Yes.
Take a look at this real quickly. Just a little FYI about FHA loans. It's designed to make home ownership available. You okay? Okay? Do you need a cup of water? Okay. It's designed to make home ownership more available. So does it make sense to you that FHA loans are for owner-occupied properties only? Yeah. So now listen. I know that some people get an FHA loan and then they later buy another house and they keep that one as a rental. That's okay. But when you get an FHA loan, you actually sign an affidavit saying that you are going to live in the property for a period of time. Makes sense? It's for owner-occupied properties. FHA loans can have no prepayment penalty. You remember talking about the prepayment penalty? And I said they were fairly rare. One of the reasons they're fairly rare is FHA and VA do not even allow them. Okay? Points and interest rates are set by the lenders, not by FHA. Rates, points, all that set by the lenders. And then look at the last bullet point. Houses built before what year? They would have to give a lead-based payment disclosure? 1978. Still feeling good about FHA? Okay, now, Ann says she wants to eliminate some of the numbers in this chapter. And here's some good news for you. FHA loans are actually described by their paragraph number in the HUD code. So in other words, 203B is telling you where you can find information about this loan in the HUD code. 203B just happens to be the most common FHA loan type, okay? However, having said that, you do not have to remember the other numbers. You just need to remember that under the FHA program, there are other loans. The 203B is a fixed rate 30-year loan. Okay? It's 30, yeah. And then the rest of these you don't have to remember, but FHA has adjustable rates, they have graduated plans, they have condo loans, they have rehab loans. You just need to know that other types of loans exist under the FHA program. Can you get that for me? Yes. Good, good. 203B just has to be.
Why did you put the lead-based payment in FHA?
It just came up. It just came up on the syllabus, so we put it on there. But what you're recognizing is it's actually no different than it would be under the rest of the law, right? Under the normal law, it's the same thing. Yeah. So we're in good shape on that. Moving on to VA. Remember, it's going to be important. It's going to be important in talking about these loan types. How does the government participate? Well, the VA program, the Veteran Administration, Department of Veteran Affairs, do you understand that this is done as a benefit to our veterans? Okay? And so if the question is, how does the government participate in a VA loan? It's a government what? Guarantee. Not to be confused with insurance, right? It's a government guarantee loan. Does anybody in here have a VA loan? Anybody have a VA loan? Okay. Do you remember what the most compelling feature of a VA loan, other than the rates, what's the most compelling feature of a VA loan? No money down. Is no money down less than 3.5%? Is no money down less than 5%? Matter of fact, not only is it no money down, you can actually roll your closing costs into that as well. It's as close to no money out of pocket as you can get in most loan types, all right? Now, we do this for the benefit of our veterans, okay? Government guarantee, the government says we will stand behind these veterans. Hey, bank, how motivated are you to give money to someone who has no money down? Not excited. I'd rather have some money and some skin in the game, so to speak. But if it's part of the VA program, the government says if for some reason that property goes into default, if that borrower goes into default, the government says what? We guarantee, we will make you whole. Lender, we will make you whole. Now is the lender motivated to make the loan? And again, these are qualifying loans, so it's not like the veteran can just walk in and get the money. They have to have income. They have to have the ratios. Ratios on the VA loan are usually 41 and 41. You remember how we were using 28 and 36 for conventional loans? If you ever see 29 and 41, they're probably talking about FHA. And if you see 41 and 41, they're talking about VA. It doesn't matter to you really, because in the math problem, you just plug them into place. It doesn't matter what the numbers are. But that's the significance of it when you see it come up. All right, the VA program. Now, let me ask you this question. Again, important. Who qualifies to receive, who can qualify to actually get a VA loan? You have to be a veteran, and you have to, or you could be a qualified widow or widower of a veteran. Okay? This is the class of people who qualify for a VA loan. But here's where it gets interesting. Who can assume a VA loan? Actually, anyone can assume a VA loan. Now again, you have to qualify, you have to have money, you have to have credit scores and stuff, but anyone can assume a VA loan. In other words, a non-veteran can assume a veteran's VA loan. Okay, so here's the deal. I have a friend of mine who has a VA loan at 2 3/4% interest. I don't know what your interest rate is, but 2 3/4 interest is pretty sexy. I would like to have that loan. I told him if he ever got ready to sell his house, I would pay for him for his equity and I would take over his loan. Okay? And the reason I'm saying that is there's no way I can ever get that interest rate. But if he wants to sell his house, I'll pay him cash for his equity and take over his loan. That would be a loan assumption. That's actually allowed. And I'm not through with you yet. I'm not through with you yet. We've talked about this. Okay? There are clauses in a deed of trust. And one of those clauses basically says this: a seller, if you sell the property, you have to pay the bank off. Does anybody remember what that clause is? An alienation or due on sale clause. VA and FHA loans do not have an alienation clause. How do I know that, Ann? Because they can be assumed. The bank says when you sell that property, you either pay me off or someone else takes over that loan, who we accept. That would be a loan assumption. The only way it can be assumed is if it doesn't have an alienation clause. VA and FHA do not have an alienation clause.
So it's the same effect, they just don't need a clause because they can be assumed.
Well, if it doesn't have an alienation clause, it can be assumed. Most loans today that are not VA and FHA have an alienation clause because they don't want you to assume the loan. They don't want you to assume that 3% interest. They want you to get a new loan and pay today's interest. Okay, the VA and FHA can be assumed. All right, so now let's talk about that loan assumption. What did I say the major important reason that a veteran might want to get a VA loan? No money down, 100% finance and 0 down, however you want to, I'll look at it. Okay, that's kind of cool. And what happens is when the veteran goes in to apply for a loan, they need to have an entitlement which comes to them from the Department of Veteran Affairs. The entitlement will say something like this: hey, lender, if you will let this borrower, this veteran, borrow up to a certain amount of money, we guarantee that we will make you whole if there's a default on the property. So entitlement is given to them by the Veterans Administration. Okay, so a veteran takes his entitlement, buys a property today. They use their VA benefit, 0 down. They're living there for 3 years. When they get ready to sell that house, if they sell that house off, if they sell that house and pay it off, they can get their entitlement back so that they can go buy another property using their VA benefit. So far, so good? If they sell that property and they allow another veteran to assume their loan, that veteran can replace the first veteran's entitlement so that I now get my entitlement back and I can go use my entitlement to buy another home. Okay? But what happens if a non-veteran assumes my loan? Now what problem do I have? Now my entitlement is tied to this house. So when I go, now that doesn't mean I'm responsible. The borrower, the new buyer, is responsible. But I don't have my entitlement when I go to buy my next property. Is that a big deal or not?
Yes.
Maybe. Maybe. What we say the main benefit of a VA loan is? No, money down. Well, what if buying my next house if I have 20, 30, or 40% down? Does it really matter that I don't have my VA entitlement? Now, granted, there's some other features that are kind of neat about the VA loan, but the main one is probably the 0 down. They usually have really, really good interest rates as well. But the fact is, if I allow a non-veteran to assume my loan, which is legal, I just don't have my entitlement when I go to purchase my next house. Does that make sense? And that's what I wanted you to see. VA loan, guaranteed by the federal government, 0 down, which brings up this question. If I were to tell you, or to ask you, Which loan that I've talked about today, VA, FHA, or conventional, which one allows the greatest leverage? What would you tell me? Which loan, VA, FHA, or conventional, allows the greatest leverage? VA, why? So you're no money down, which means you're 100% leveraged. Do you remember the word leveraged in this class means using other people's money? 100%, you can't get any better than 100% leverage. Got it?
What's the difference? So it's like the guarantees, right? So the government guarantees to the bank. And FHA.
Insurance.
Right.
Yeah. For our purposes, it's semantics. They have the similar effect, and it's just the government guarantee is actually a veteran benefit. It's actually paid for by a government program. The money comes from the banks, the rates come from the banks, but it's supported by taxpayer dollars. The FHA program is actually an insurance program because all borrowers play into that insurance program. But as far as I'm concerned, it's semantics. They have the same effect.
I was just curious, going back to the VA loan. Okay, so a veteran gets the original loan. They sell their house to a non-veteran. They do not get their entitlement because the loan is not paid off.
Correct.
So if the new homeowners pay it off, then the original.
Then potentially you can get your entitlement back. Yeah. It doesn't work exactly like that, but it's kind of close enough. You can actually have two VA loans simultaneously, but the problem is because of they don't put caps on the loans, but the entitlements are only good for a certain amount. If you bought property in Kinston, maybe your first house was $60,000, and so when you sold it, you would have enough entitlement left that you could literally go buy another house. So it's possible, but for our purposes, the way you said it, I think is what we want to focus on. A non-veteran has assumed that I can't get my entitlement back until that's paid off. Then I can appeal to get my. What's that? Oh gosh, I'm not as sure exactly how they do that. I would assume that it does, but I'm not sure what formula they use for that. But there will be a maximum entitlement that a certain veteran would qualify for, and theoretically they could use this more than once. But this is important to everyone. VA loans are for what type of properties? They're not for your investment properties. They're for what? They're for owner-occupied properties. That doesn't mean you have to live in it forever. It just means that at the time you bought it for your personal residence. Okay. VA loans, certificate of eligibility and your entitlement come from Department of Veteran Affairs. No maximum loan limit. 100% financing available, right? Okay. High loan to value ratio. This kind of says the same thing. We said this as well. The VA loan can be assumed by anyone. However, it might affect whether you continue to have your entitlement. Restoration of entitlement, if you pay your loan off, go back to VA and you can get your entitlement back as soon as you perform within terms. No prepayment penalties. Oops, let me stop. Let me slow down here for just a moment. On this page, do you see the word funding fee? If you ever see the word funding fee, understand that that's associated with a VA loan. Okay? Every veteran pays a one-time upfront funding fee. Every veteran in the VA program pays an upfront one-time funding fee. In other words, they don't pay mortgage insurance, right? They pay an upfront funding fee. Now, you should know in this class, I can never make a statement where I can use a word like every. There are some veterans that do not pay the funding fee. I don't want to be one of them, to be honest with you, but there are some veterans that do not pay the funding fee. Do you know what allowed them to avoid paying the funding fee? They're what? They're disabled. They're disabled veterans. Some disabled veterans, depending on the level of their disability, are actually allowed to, are not required to pay a funding fee. This is where it really comes in handy when you're in the field to work with really, really good lenders who know how to ask the correct, difficult questions. You understand if it's a veteran with a disability, again, I don't want to be in that class, but having said that, it's very possible they can get into a property with no money down, including not having to pay the funding fee. That can be a big deal for some veterans in anticipating whether they're going to buy a property or not. Okay? Funding fee, it's associated with VA loans. There is no mortgage insurance. They pay a one-time upfront funding fee. The other thing I want you to write down in your notes that's not up there, I didn't see it in the notes anywhere, is a CRV, the letter CRV. If you ever see the letter CRV, it's associated with a VA loan, and what it stands for is a Certificate of Reasonable Value. A CRV is a Certificate of Reasonable Value. For lack of a better word, it's a VA appraisal. Interestingly enough, not everybody can do a VA, not every appraiser can do a VA appraisal. You actually have to be VA certified to be able to do this. Not for test purposes, just kind of an FYI. VA appraisals, CRVs, actually tend to be pretty tough. They are really suspicious of things like deferred maintenance issues. If you're buying a house and it doesn't have some type of floor covering in the living room, you're likely not going to get a VA loan until that is taken care of. So if you're trying to buy a house that has some deferred maintenance, you may find VA to be difficult. Having said that, if you do qualify, if the house qualifies, there should be no problem here. But let me ask you this question. If you are a seller, if you are selling your home, and you have 3 offers on your property, one of them is cash, one of them is conventional finance, and the other one is VA financing. Is this something that you might want to take into consideration as a home seller? Yeah, you know, certainly the CRV is going to be a tough appraisal to get through. And secondly, in a VA loan, the seller is required to pay the termite inspection. Termite inspections, by the way, go for about $85 to $125. This is not illegal. Okay? But the seller is required to pay it. Now, the reason I mention that is when you do your listing agreements, do you remember on the listing agreement, we actually asked the seller, what type of offers would you consider? Would you consider cash? Yeah, I bet they would. Conventional, probably so. FHA, VA, yeah, probably so. But the fact of the matter is, it might have some effect on the offer, which is fair for the buyer to take the seller to take into consideration. Okay? If you have no offers on the table and you get a VA offer, it's pretty dang good. And to be honest with you, sometimes the VA offer will offer you a little bit more than the cash. So in that case, it might actually look better than the cash offer. But it's clearly something to take into consideration. Okay?
So
Yeah, listen.
are conventional loans the only ones that have prepayment penalties, and how about the
Well, remember on prepayment penalties, here's what we said. Of the ones we talked about today, VA and FHA cannot have prepayment penalties. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember me saying this on Friday, but loans that are sold in the secondary market, Fannie and Freddie, they don't have prepayment penalties either. So could some conventional loans? Yeah, but it'd be like your jumbos and stuff like that for the most part. And then subprime clearly has prepayment penalties. Okay. All right, VA versus FHA, compare and contrast. Compare, where does the money come from for conventional FHA and VA? Where do you go? Go to the bank, go to a mortgage banker, go to a mortgage broker, go there to the same places and get it. Most of them are going to be qualified for conventional FHA and VA. How does the government participate in the FHA program? It's a government what? Insurance program. How do they participate in VA? Guarantee. Okay, and then just the vocabulary that goes with each other. Yes, Constance?
Your termite thing that you all have, is that not a requirement? It's just, they sort of slide that in under the buyer beware?
Well, the VA is required for underwriting, but not in all loans. It's not any longer. It used to be. The lenders in this area used to require a termite inspection. And interestingly enough, if you come from out of this area, people will ask you things like, when you get questions like this, well, I mentioned in the past about radon. Do you think I should do a radon inspection? I heard there's no radon in North Carolina. Do you think people should do radon inspections? Absolutely. It's the second leading cause of lung cancer in the United States. I think that you can spend that $100 to get that checked. Do you think I really need a termite inspection in North Carolina? You've clearly never been to North Carolina if you ask that question. We have moist, warm soils. Do you know where termites like to live? In moist, warm environments, and they love to eat wood. Okay? So yeah, you should absolutely. The banks no longer require it. VA clearly does. Okay? We are getting ready to cross a very important line here. Do you remember in the loans we just talked about, conventional VA and FHA, you went to the lender to get VI money, and they used their money, which they got by selling loans in the secondary market to fund the loans? Does all that sound familiar? Here's the line that you are now crossing. The loan that I'm getting ready to talk about now is actually funded by the federal government. It's actually funded by the federal government. You still go to your lender to get the loan, but the pool of money is actually from a government program. Do you see the distinction I'm making? Okay, let me describe that program to you. It's the Rural Economic and Community Development Services loan under the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, Department of Agriculture. There are two main loan types that you typically hear them talk about under this program. One of them is called the Rural Development Loan, rural, R-U-R-A-L. Easier to spell than it is to say. Rural development or community development loans. Here's your definition. It's to encourage development, to encourage home ownership in small rural communities. If you'd like to know what a small rural community is, what we're talking about is a community of less than 25,000 population. So what's the purpose of the rural development? Why do we have a government program that actually encourages this? Is to encourage growth in small rural communities. Build some houses, buy some houses. Let's keep the economic, typically speaking, less than 25,000 population. Okay? Ebony, all things being equal, would you rather make more money or less? Okay. Most of the time I would rather make more money. However, under the USDA program, it actually has an income cap. You cannot get a USDA loan if you make beyond a certain amount of money. So this is important to know if you sell in these type of environments. It's actually more forgiving than what you think it is. I think in Wake County, you could actually, if you had a married couple with a couple of kids, good gosh, I think you could have household income of close to 100 grand and still get a USDA loan. Don't quote me on that number. I'm not sure what it is today, but it's actually more forgiving than what you think it is, okay? USDA loan to encourage home ownership in rural communities. So far, so good? Okay. Where does the money come from for this program? It's actually a federally funded program. Yes, Dan?
Is there anything like a first-time buyers program?
Let's say no for right now. It's not that it's not like that. This is specific to rural communities. I think what you're probably talking about is the FHA program actually has a supplement program. Well, actually, North Carolina Housing Finance has one. That if you're a first-time home buyer, you can also get it's not a grant. What's the word I'm looking for? A subsidy, a supplement to help you pay your down payment. So in other words, the FHA loan, you get 3.5% down, but this other program will pay the down payment for you. Okay, so there's programs like that within the state, North Carolina Housing Finance, for example. The USDA is, I can see where you would think it's like that, but it's a separate program. Okay, there's all types of programs out there. This again, that's why you get to know a lot of lenders, so that you will know which one's appropriate for your client. Think about the program you just described. I cannot use USDA to buy in downtown Raleigh, right? But could I use a FHA program with a first-time home buyer incentive on it to buy in downtown Raleigh? Conceivably so. It's not rural, so I couldn't use that program. Yeah.
Do any of these allow or not allow land loans?
Say again, I'm sorry?
Do any of these allow or not allow land loans? Because I know they're difficult.
Land
Yeah.
loans, you talking about for like buying a farm or something like that?
Yeah, like just buy land. And
Well, let me introduce you to the next one. I'll give you an example. If you're going to use it for a farm, okay? USDA rural development, that was for development of small communities, right? Listen to this next one, Mark. The next one is called the FSA. It's not up there. Write this down. FSA, Farm Services Administration Loan. FSA, Farm Services Administration, which falls under the Department of Agriculture as well. Department of Agriculture.
But does that have to be for a farm?
In this case, it would be. In this case, it would be. The Farm Services Loan is to encourage the growth of family-owned farms. family-owned and operated farms, as opposed to a corporate farm.
Back up.
The farm services loans are to encourage the purchase of family-owned and operated farms, as opposed to a corporate farm. Yes, Constance?
They have different kind of loans if you're getting, say, a mobile home. You want to buy a mobile home on a piece of land, they still separate it here in North Carolina, or you?
It depends. Now, the VA program will allow you to buy a mobile home on the land that is real, in fact, real property, okay? But if you want to buy just a mobile home, not set up on land, that would be a different loan. And then what Lauren was asking, if you just want to buy land in general, you are going to find it's a little more difficult to fit into one of these categories. If you're buying it as a farm, I can put you into this. If you're just buying an acre to put a house on, I can fit you into this. If you're buying an acre to put a double-wide mobile home on, I can fit you into probably any of them. But if you're buying a mobile home to put in a park, if you're just buying land because you want land, you're going to have a hard time fitting into these loans.
So like, where would you even go for that?
Oh, you would go to the, like Farm Bureau, it's called Farm Bureau, they might can help you find sourcing for that.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes they are more difficult. And the reason they are is sometimes what will happen is, especially if you're going to live on, let's say 20 acres, you're going to have a house, and then you're going to have 20 acres.
Right.
They may evaluate it as a house sitting on 3 or 4 acres, but then they'll evaluate the land separately. Because we know that land that houses sit on is more valuable than vacant land. So that's why you run into a problem. And there's also appraisal issues that come
My
up.
husband hunts, so that's why I'm asking these questions. Because
Yeah.
he's wanting to get property. So.
Yeah, he's probably going to have to get a special type for that. Yeah. Higher interest rates as well. Okay, now what do I want you to remember? Rural development, farm services, where the money comes from? A government program. Why? Because we want to incentivize people to buy in these rural communities and buy family-operated farms. Okay? Department of Agriculture. Okay, continuing forward, let's go back to this level one. Level one, let's keep this very simple. This is the second type of owner financing we're going to talk about in this class. Can anybody remember from chapter 10 a type of owner financing that I talked about? Say again? Contract for deed. You remember talking about a contract for deed or an installment contract in chapter 10? Do you remember in an installment contract who I said held title to the property? The seller holds title and they're going to deliver it when? When you pay them off. I'll finance it for you, buyer, but I'll hold the title in my name and I'll deliver title when you pay me off. That was a contract for deed. We're now getting ready to talk about the second type of seller financing that you might see in this class. And it's called a purchase money mortgage. Purchase money mortgage. In North Carolina, it might be a purchase money deed of trust, but a purchase money mortgage. What's the first note that I want you to write? It's a type of what? It's a type of seller financing. Purchase money mortgage is a type of seller financing. Okay, so now you have to make a decision. How are you going to recognize the difference between a purchase money mortgage and a contract for deed or an installment land contract? In the installment contract, I held title until you paid me off, right? But in a purchase money mortgage, when am I going to deliver title to you? At closing. And then I'm going to put a lien on the property. Okay? Or I'll have you mortgage the property back to you. Does that make sense? In other words, in a purchase money mortgage, who is the seller acting just like? They're acting just like a bank. In a purchase money mortgage, it's seller financing, but the seller is acting just like a bank would. They're delivering title, just like you would always get when you buy a property, and then there's going to be a lien on the property or a mortgage on the property. Okay? Purchase money mortgage. Do you now see the two types of seller financing we're going to talk about in this class? Can you differentiate and compare and contrast those two? Good? Good? At the end of the day, there's just 2 or 3 bullet points on that. You don't need to go deep depth. That's a major difference, yes. That's a major difference, yes. Okay? Now, pay attention real quickly here. Let me confuse you. Now that you've got it down pat, let me confuse you. I was told recently, not recently, it's like a year and a half ago, is that the national test that we have today actually uses the word purchase money mortgage to describe bank financing. As a matter of fact, if you would go talk to your bank today, they would say they do purchase money financing. What they're describing is an act, the way they do it. You get possession of the property, and then they have you mortgage the property to them, right? It's exactly the same thing I just described. However, the people that are in charge of the test told me this as well. There will never be a question that convolutes the thinking between the way banks do purchase money financing and the way a seller would do purchase money financing. What I mean by that is, in the context of the question, you would know, are they talking about bank financing purchase money mortgage, or are you talking about seller financing, okay? So don't panic on those. It just might be used in two different spots on the exam. I'm guessing that the questions about purchase money mortgage, seller financing are going to have to do with compare and contrast purchase money mortgage and contract for deed. You see where I'm going with that? And do you remember what I said earlier in this class? And one of my students said, Chris, I don't even understand what an installment contract is. And I'm sorry, he said he doesn't understand what a contract for deed was. And I said, it's nothing but an installment land sales contract. And he said, well, I knew that, but on the test they use the word contract for deed. So you need to be prepared to see that on the deed. Two types of seller financing. That's all I'm getting at there. Okay? Hey, you know something they have in common? Under either of these methods, if the borrower defaults, under either of these methods, if the borrower defaults, as the seller who is doing the financing, what are you most likely to get back? Only your property. Your property. Because in seller financing in North Carolina, can you pursue a deficiency judgment? No, sellers doing seller financing cannot pursue a deficiency judgment. They get their land back, they can foreclose, but they can't pursue a deficiency judgment. Do you remember those words tied around these topics? And literally that's it. I mean, level 1-ish. Okay, pay attention here. These words are easy, and you're almost certainly going to get points. So if you have any just quick questions, ask me about these. It will be worth it in the long run. Okay, we're talking about different types of loans. I'm going to skip purchase money mortgage because I feel like we just talked about that. Let's go to the first bullet point there. Package loans. What do I mean when I say a package loan? Well, here's your short definition. A package loan is any loan that includes real and personal property. A package loan includes real and personal property. Give an example of where you might see a package loan. Well, so, yeah, you're buying a furnished property, for example. You're buying a property where some amenities come with it. It's not uncommon at the beach to see a package loan. You're buying a fully furnished beach condo or something to that effect. A package loan includes not just real, but also personal property as well. Got it? You know, Lennar used to have a program like this. I don't know if they still do. They're everything included program, where they would sell you the house, and obviously you could get a mortgage on that house, but they also recognize that some people that are buying homes don't have a lot of spare money to go out and start buying other stuff, right? So you know what they would include as part of your purchase price if you wanted it? Refrigerator, washer, dryer. I'm not sure how extensive they would go with furniture, but having said that, they would include your appliance package, and they just include it in with the mortgage. Why? They knew you didn't have a lot of money to go shopping with after you bought a house, so they would just throw it in. Package mortgage. Make sense? Okay? Next one, blanket mortgage. Blanket mortgage actually came up in chapter 4, so let's revisit it here. A blanket mortgage, any one mortgage that covers multiple pieces of property. Blanket mortgage, any one mortgage that covers multiple pieces of property. For an extra bonus point,